Brian, one of the things that I dislike the most in a public setting is when somebody gets up and says, the next person needs no introduction. And then they go ahead and give a 4-minute resume and introduction. I would say if any of my guests need no introduction, it's you, my friend, Mr. Black. Good to have you here. We've been talking about self-care for leaders, talking about it in 4 areas. And today I wanted to chat a little bit with you about how you prepare yourself for leadership spiritually. And we want to put that in play pretty broadly. And my observation, and you and I have talked about this before, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, would be the idea that most leaders don't do still or reflection very well.
Yeah.
Do you share that observation? And if so, how do you combat that in your very, very busy life?
Yeah, well, first of all, I do share that observation. And frankly, in my own life, it's a challenge as well. What I've learned over time, and working with a lot of leaders who wrestle with that same need for space, for me is the need to have a definitive or a carved out time when I'm treating it with as much seriousness as the other things that are important in my life. I just simply need a space, a place, and a time when day upon day, most days, I can be still and be reflective.
So a routine, a habit.
A routine and a habit, even a place for me has been helpful.
A specific place, okay, all right. Okay.
Not true for everyone, but I've found that having a place, which is a special chair, and a time in the morning has made a tremendous difference.
So that's something you'd encourage people to think about just as a way of incorporating that stillness, that reflective preparation into their life for the rigors of leadership. And we like to say that all people, we believe, are created, gifted, called in some way.
Absolutely.
And for leaders, we would certainly emphasize that idea that we're created by God, called to a specific purpose, and gifted to accomplish that purpose. But put in a greater frame, if we don't prepare for that, we won't execute it well. So you, I know, really feel convicted that some time of spiritual reflection and preparation on a daily basis is extraordinarily important. How would you encourage people to maybe not, we don't want to put a model out there because it's going to be different for different people, different for people of different belief systems or theological persuasions. But for you, what's been most helpful?
For leaders, and for you and I as well, a lot of times I think leaders spend a lot of time thinking and processing,
for sure,
but really not nearly as much time just reflecting. So the first thing that I think we want to do with leaders and we do with each other is encourage leaders to make reflection an important part of their leadership journey and part of their day. And then to find a way to weave that into their day, just as they would treat anything else that's important to them. Whether it's morning, afternoon, evening isn't as relevant as the fact that it has a place. And then to take some time in that space to reflect backwards and also, I think, reflect forwards. And to use that space to undergird, spiritually, their leadership journey. Many of our leaders that we work with struggle with just perspective. The problems of the day, the issues of the day, the burdens of what leadership can bring can be overwhelming. And to step back and first reflect on just perspective. Where do I fit and where does all this fit inside of the bigger sphere?
And who am I going to be in this situation that I know I'm going to be faced with today? Not just how am I going to execute, but what am I going to bring? Who am I going to be?
That's exactly right. So when we talk about created, gifted, and called, a reflection on, hey, I really, who am I really? And what am I really called to be? And that leads to who am I going to be or want to be in these moments?
And I think it helps us to, one of my clients likes to call it stay in my lane. His lane being the areas in which he is gifted and called. When he stays in his lane, he's really, really good. And when he gets out of it, he's really, really annoying. And one of the big learning for that particular leader has been just that, that, hey, I'm actually annoying when I get outside my lane. I'm doing things I'm not good at. I'm getting in other people's way. But when I stay in my lane, where I'm gifted and called. And so it takes time for him. He's committed to the type of thing that you're talking about, to just setting up his day in a way that he can be who he is created, gifted, and called to be.
That's exactly right. I think it was Vince Lombardi that said, fatigue makes cowards of us all. But a twin of that, I think, is a lack of reflection and really allowing the daily grind or the burdens of the day to get larger than they need to be. Also makes cowards of us all, I think, in many cases. And so this time of reflection, however you find it, that spiritual undergirding, putting yourself in the frame of the created, gifted, and called, I think has more power in our leader's life than I think most of us imagine until we step into that space and see how transformative it can be.
So reflection, spiritual reflection, backwards and maybe forwards, find a way to make it part of your day.